Welcome to the Strategy Mastermind video series. I'm Ute Lambrecht. I'm the founder and CEO of the Mastermind Hub. We are taught early on to adapt and fit into a container that has a job label attached to it. We do this because we think we have to survive in this world. Now, more and more people are proving that we don't have to conform anymore to live a self-directed life of freedom. They are stepping into the zone of genius, which Gay Hendricks describes in his book, The Big Leap, as the unique ability you are gifted with, and when fully realized and put to work, can provide enormous benefits to yourself and anyone you serve. Now, because of our upbringing, we don't always know what this unique gift is. And in today's conversation, we find out how my special guests are clarifying this question for themselves. They are all committed to bringing their unique expression into the world and to thrive at the same time. So with me today are Lisa Larter. Lisa is the CEO of the Lisa Larter Group. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
It's super having you here. Star Khechara. Star is the business strategist at Passive Income Rocks. Hi, Star.
Hi there.
Hi. And Jenna Soard is the Chief of Creativity and founder of You Can Brand.
Hi.
Hi. So I want to start this discussion and ask each one of you, how did you become clear on what your zone of genius is? Shall we start with Lisa?
I knew you were going to start with me, put me on the spot, and then I'm going to have all these great ideas after everybody else speaks and think that, what I said. Yeah, I'm going to think that what I said wasn't very good. So, okay. How did I figure out, I guess, my zone of genius? I figured it out by accident and by need. So I was raised by a single mom back when being a single parent wasn't cool. So 40 years ago, my parents split up. And my mom and I were really poor. My mom, we lived in a rented house. And, one of my memories is my mom literally nailing pieces of carpet to the door to keep the winter draft out. And it wasn't until I was about 12 years old that I realized that we didn't really have a lot of money, because you get to that stage in school where you start to notice what other kids have and what you don't have, and all of a sudden you're comparing and you realize. And I knew that I really wanted designer jeans because all the other kids were wearing these cool jeans, and I, of course, was wearing five and dime Jordache jeans. Like, they were like cheap and cheerful jeans. And I remember telling my mom that I wanted these jeans, and she said, well, if you want those jeans, you're going to have to find a way to make enough money to buy them because I can't afford it. And off I went as a 12-year-old kid, gathering things together and bringing them to the flea market. I was making chocolates, I was making crafts, I was selling old books. I was doing whatever I could to generate income at 12 years old so that I could have the things that I wanted in life. And I don't think I realized at that time that that was going to be my zone of genius, but it really has proven to be the thing that I can do for myself and for companies and for others, is really show people how to generate the income they need to have what they want. So
yeah, fantastic.
You don't go to school thinking, oh, gee, I'm going to learn how to be a revenue
No.
It kind of happens.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Star, how did that happen for you?
It's great actually that I'm following Lisa, because our stories, Lisa, are really similar. I also grew up with a single mum back in a time when everyone had a mum and a dad. And again, with the growing up in absolute poverty, there was a time when we were homeless for a while, because we only had a council property. And for those of you that aren't in the UK, a council property is like when you basically almost get given a house because you're that poor, but it's not yours, you don't really own it as such. And then my mum wanted to further her education. And so she moved us like halfway across the country to go to the university she wanted to. And we had nowhere to live at all. So we were living in a tent for a while. And then we ended up in like tiny rooms in these crazy houses. Like I met some amazing people, all kinds of weirdos in these houses. And there were times when we had to sit on the beach and wait for the tide to go out, because we had to pick our dinner, which was the mussels that grow on the rocks, because we literally have no money even for food at all. And so I think just being in that situation makes you extremely savvy, you know. And so, you know, that gift from there was complete savviness. And I always used to say, I'm never going to be as poor as I was then. It did take me about 30 years to actually learn that lesson, put it into practice. But really, you know, I never knew what my thing was at all. And to be honest, I still don't sometimes, because I'm multi-passionate. I love so many different things. But what my life has taught me is that it's actually okay to try different things, and you can be successful in many things. And it's okay to keep other ideas on the back burner and do one thing for now, try it out, maybe try it out for even 5 years, you know, who knows, or even 6 months. And then when you want to move on, you can, you know, start doing something else. I actually sold my first passion-based business last year and started doing something completely different. So, you know, I think that's the beauty of life, is that we can go through these crazy situations, learn loads and put it into practice, and then change and evolve and grow as people. And, you know, that's really where I come from.
Super. Thanks so much, Star. Jenna.
Yeah, so I can really resonate with your guys' story too, because I also came from a single mom.
Well, we all did.
Here. She is amazing. But I had two parents. My parents divorced when I was 2. My dad ended up with a rich woman, and my mom was totally like supporting. They team parented, but I got this crazy like duality of rich summers with a rich stepmom, and then very, very poor winters with my mom. And so, but I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My mom ran a daycare so she could stay at home with my sister and I. She had a very successful daycare. She went from working, doing hair for people and not making very much money, to having a really successful daycare business at home. And my dad is a kept man, but he was an award-winning engineer, and both grandparents on both sides were highly successful entrepreneurs. So I had a grandfather that owned the first cable company in Las Vegas, and I had another grandparents on my mom's side that owned a really successful real estate agency. So I had no examples of traditional jobs, like zero. Like I never saw anybody go to work 9 to 5. So it was never a part of my story, and it was never anything that I was willing to do. So I kind of was unemployable from day one. But I started my first business in the 3rd grade, selling little ceramic heart pins with my mom. And my dad, I spent my summers with him and holidays with him, and he told me that I could be anything. And he got me on a computer at the age of 2. And I had a computer and was on the internet in like 1993, all the way through 1999. So I was doing chats with video in 1999. If you can imagine that even existed. There was a little Logitech cam called an iCam, and they had this thing called iPhone, but it was EYE phone. And I was talking to people all over the world back when I was like 19. So 18, 19, or 16 through 19. So I started a t-shirt business in high school. And I remember that, you know, it made sense. I was on one of the first versions of Photoshop. I had done all this t-shirt design. And when I look back to the time of when I was about 9, I found, as I was going through some memorabilia stuff, a book that said Graphics by Jenna that I made when I was 9 years old. So I've known my entire life that I wanted to do graphic design, which I don't know how that happened, but it did. And what I discovered through this process was that having clients is not my favorite thing in the world. I only take on 1 client a year. I discovered in my mid-20s that having 12 graphic design clients was like having 12 bosses. And I had moved to Tokyo to get away from design for a year because I needed a serious break. And I discovered my love of teaching. So when I came back, I merged my love of design with my love of teaching. And I taught at I think at the University of Oregon for 4 years, and then merged my love of design and teaching together to now start the business that I have today. So it's amazing to look at like how I knew so far back then what I wanted to do, and kind of how I've taken all of my loves and merged them into one thing.
Oh, super. Gosh, amazing stories. Thank you so much. And what I'm hearing from all of you is it's transferable, whatever your skill is. It's not sort of one fixed skill. It's a very broad skill. And that's actually, you can apply it in all over. It's not something that, oh my gosh, you know, I have to find that one little thing that will be my zone of genius. It's actually quite broad, and you can apply it everywhere.
It's like a profile.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to know, how are you applying this now in your business? How are you making sure that your zone of genius is coming forth rather than focusing on all the other things? So how are you applying it in your business? So let's go to Star.
Oh no, this is probably my worst habit. Well, yeah, it's a learning curve for me, for sure. Because I'm so multi-passionate and so excited about helping others that it's actually been like my downfall at times to try and be everything to everybody. And actually, one of my biggest lessons that I'm putting into practice this year, finally, is I'm narrowing right down on what exactly it is I want to do and who I want to serve and how I want to serve them. And I think that last part is like really important as well, because, you know, if you work as a solopreneur online, there's kind of set ways that most people do things. And we often all fall into the trap like, well, if so-and-so's doing her coaching like that, or so-and-so's doing her web design like that, I must have to offer the similar kind of packages. And actually, that's completely nonsense. You know, so it's not just about defining what the genius thing you want to do. It's also about making sure that you define who you want to work with and how you personally want to work. So for me, I know for a fact that I'm absolutely flighty. I can't hold down anything for a really long time. I get really bored. I'm super impatient, and I'm spontaneous, so I will go off traveling at the drop of a hat. So I can't commit to, say, working with a client for 12 months. It's not something I could do. So in my practice of being a business mentor, I've had to sit and really hard think, well, what is it I really want to give, and who do I want to serve, and how specifically do I want to serve them, and only do that. And it's really difficult actually, but if you're 100% honest with yourself, you know, you've really got to go for that, because it's just not going to work any other way. You know, I could put out a ton of programs and sell them, but I'm going to resent that whole time. I mean, just like what Jenna said a minute ago, is she now just works with one client for the year, and rather than 12, and I'm juggling all these different people. And I think that's really brave and honest to be able to say, do you know what, I don't want to do it the way everyone else is doing it. This is the way I do it, and it's that or nothing, you know. And to state that publicly and to follow through on it is actually a really difficult job. But if you do it, it's really one of the keys to actually working from your zone of genius and going forward with success.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Star. Jenna.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Star, too, because like I think that I said yes to people a lot before I learned how to flex my no muscle, and I'm flexing my no muscle more and more every single day. Like I'm saying no to men. I'm saying no to everything that doesn't fit my, you know, I just said no to a long-term person I've known forever who's begging me to be a client. And I was like, I love you, but no, like, I just can't do it. And so I actually will probably get to the point where I don't take clients on at all, because I believe that my genius zone is helping people empower themselves. And this most current person that I said no to got really upset, and I put them in my program, and they said, oh my gosh, I could do this on my own. I can't believe I didn't do this a long time ago. And then you just get this feeling of like, yes, I'm doing the right thing, empowering people, not babying them, not taking them on as responsible, you know, as them being my responsibility. I think that it's really as easy as entrepreneurs like we are to get helicopter parent syndrome and feel like we have to save people. I'm sure that you girls can relate with the idea of, if I don't help this person, they're going to end up homeless. Therefore, I will end up homeless. And this is the long-term work that I've done with coaches that I've had, that I go, oh, I used to say yes to everybody because I thought I was going to be homeless and I thought they were going to be homeless. And the only way for us not to become homeless was to work together. And so I said yes to everybody. So now I say no to everybody and give them a different solution. And now everybody is so much more successful.
Well, my zone of genius is revenue generation. So I apply what I know to my business every day in terms of business development and growth, and in terms of helping other people generate revenue in their business. I think, like Star, I kind of have a bit of ADD in terms of there are so many ways you can make money. And I think that that's one of the great things about my zone of genius is I'm not afraid to try different things, and I'm really not attached to the outcome, because I've gotten to a stage in my life where I have confidence in my ability to make enough money to do the things that I want to do in life. So last week I had a webinar, and I was basically introducing a program that I've offered in the form of a membership instead of just a program, because I've decided I don't really like launches. I don't really like the stress feeling of having to launch something on a date and send out all these emails and do all this stuff. It stresses me a little bit. And I also don't really like selling from the stage, because when I have to sell from the stage, I get anxiety in my stomach, and I have comparison about how did I do and compared to everybody else, and I feel icky about it. But put me one-on-one with somebody to talk business, and in a 20-minute conversation, I can close a crazy amount of revenue in a very, very easy, effortless manner. Because one-on-one, whether it's one-on-one on video, on the phone, or belly to belly, eye-to-eye, heart-to-heart, it's a really easy thing for me to do. So I think how I'm applying it in my zone of genius is saying no to the things that don't feel good, just like Jenna. I used to speak for a really large organization, and every year I would go to their conference and I would speak from the stage and I would sell. And every year I would have pains in my stomach before I was about to do it, because it just didn't feel good. I love to speak. I love to teach. I love to share information. But I don't like feeling like I'm manipulating an audience into buying. I like people to buy because they like what I have to offer. And so I think that for me, I'm applying it by constantly evaluating what's working, what's not working, what is giving me the biggest reward for the least amount of effort, and how can I do more of that? I love the idea. I love passive income. I love buying real estate and finding ways to generate, rental income property revenue, instead of it having to all be dependent on me doing something specifically in my business. So I guess that's how I approach it.
Yeah, that's super. Thanks very much, Lisa. And just for the final round, do you have any tips that you could give others on how to find your, zone of genius? For me, for instance, it took me a long time to actually accept that I'm a starter. I'm not very, I have that initial energy. I have this burst of energy, and then I am a couch potato and I don't want to see anyone else. And so that makes me totally unemployable. And that, just to go through, mention that and state that and allow that to be who I am, it was so hard now I understand why. You know, I really like these mastermind groups. I like creating harmony, but I was just to face who you are and be totally honest. That's, I think, for me, has been a big help. So shall we start with Jenna? Any tips you have for others to
I'm sitting here writing notes. I've got so many things. So for me, this is what I've discovered in the last year, and it shocked me. I discovered that I over-deliver on everything to the point of making myself crazy. So the new approach that I have is I went from a 20 video program down to a 10 video program. And there was Adobe Illustrator wasn't even covered in this 10 video program, but people produced better Adobe Illustrator things than when they had videos on it. I was like, how is that possible? Well, apparently when you keep things simple and people get through the core part of your process, they get empowered to go do things even if you don't cover it. So I learned a very important thing. Keep it simple. You don't have to produce every single thing that's in your mind to make people successful. So really listening to what people are having problems about and turning those into programs. I think the biggest mistake that I've heard of people doing is just throwing something out there because they think that they know what people want, but ultimately if they don't really survey and they don't really get that sort of evidence to back it up, you might be spending all this time creating things that people don't actually want. And then saying no to everything that doesn't feel good in your gut. I think everybody here could really agree with that. You're going to get opportunities to do speaking engagements and work with a certain celebrity client and do all these things. And if something in your heart is going, oh, this is such a great opportunity, I don't want to miss out, but do I really want to do this? Do I really want to spend my time doing this? If it's going to affect where you currently are flowing, just know whatever you're going to say yes to is going to take away from something else. So is that worth it? And those would be the three things I would focus on. Listen to what people are complaining about, keep it simple, and say no everything that doesn't feel good.
Great, thank you. Lisa?
I would say pay attention. Pay attention to the thing that you cannot help but do. So when I go to get my nails done, I'm telling the salon owner how she can make more money. When I go get my hair done, I'm telling my hairdresser what she can do to make more money. Like, I can't help myself. So that's how I know that it's my zone of genius, because I just can't help but do it. I walk into a restaurant and I'm like, they could be making so much more money if they would just do this, this, and this. Like, it's like a disease. So pay attention to what is that thing you can't help but do. Because if you really want to know what people don't know what it is, it's there. You just need to pay attention to it. You're just not aware of that thing you do naturally. And don't underestimate the value that you bring to the table. 15-minute conversation one day, I helped somebody generate an additional $15,000 in a job contract that they were negotiating. What is the value of 15 minutes of my time? For me, it was really easy. It was a no-brainer to tell her what to do, and it turned into awesomeness for her. And she's been at that job for probably 4 years now. So what is my time valued at, $60,000 an hour? Like, that's a little bit absurd. But, at the same time, would somebody pay $600 for 15 minutes if they knew they could generate 60,000? So what I find happen is, for a lot of people, is just because it's easy for you doesn't mean that it's not valuable for other people. So pay attention to whatever it is that your natural gift is, but don't undermine the value that it's worth to other people, because that's where you end up starving and not making any money in your business, because you undervalue what you really bring to the table.
Super, great advice. Thanks, Lisa. And Star, any tips from you?
Yeah, and I was just like, I've just been giggling at both Jenna and Lisa, because I'm recognizing myself in both of these stories as well, especially you, Lisa. I'm the same. As soon as I walk into anywhere, I'm constantly assessing. I've got this crazy eye for detail, almost like an OCD thing. And I'm like, oh, why have they put that there? If only they did that. If only they worded it like this. So I know that my zone is similar to Lisa's. I help people make money, especially online. And my passion is passive income, because I'm all about freedom and having fun. So for me, it was all about putting my own personal values first, putting my lifestyle before my business. I see so many people putting their business before their lifestyle, and I think if only I work my butt off now for the next X number of years, I can then have fun later. And the problem with that is, if you start down that road, you will never get to the point where you put your lifestyle first. If you don't put your lifestyle first straight from day one, you'll never do it. You know, it's like the diet always starts next Monday. So that's my one big main tip. You've got to put your lifestyle first. I've built all of my businesses around my own personal lifestyle, and this is my second 6-figure business. I make 5 figures every month by putting my own lifestyle first, and I only do something like 10 hours work a week. Most of that's messing around on Facebook. Is that work? I don't know. I call it work, but you know. So I think that's the thing. If you build yourself around your lifestyle, you can't help but be successful to an extent, because even if all you're successful at is paying for that lifestyle and making no more, then you're still having the lifestyle you want, you know, rather than having to go and, you know, sweat your buns off for someone else for a pittance. I've always disagreed with the idea that we sell our life hours to someone else for like a really small amount of money. You know, to me, it just seems insane, and always has done since I was a child. So I've never had that mindset of going to do a work, and like you, Uta, I'm unemployable. I always knew there's something else I had to do. So yeah, number one, I would say put your lifestyle first. Number two, definitely saying no to everything that doesn't fire you up. It's not even about saying no to stuff that makes you feel a bit rubbish, you know, but it's like, you know, you really should feel absolutely fired up about the thing that you want to do in the world. And so Jenna knew from a young age, like what fired her up. I have many things that fire me up, so I'm still always like, oh, which thing did I do today? But by building my business around my lifestyle, I get to choose which of those things I can do that fire me up today. You know, so I make sure that whenever I put out into the world, whenever I say, hey, you can pay this for me to do that, it's something that I really, really want to do, and I would get out of bed and do, even if I wasn't being paid. You know, so way back in the day when I had no money and I didn't have any businesses, you know, there were loads of things I did that I wasn't being paid for, and business advice was one of them, helping people with their sales and marketing. And I used to read marketing books for fun as my bedtime reading. That's how much of a geek I am at sales and marketing. So I know that that's that thing that I just have massive passion for. And I would do that even if I didn't get paid. So that's a really good way to find your zone of genius, if you do it without getting paid. Yeah.
Super.
So I think that'll do for me.
Super. Yeah, what I'm hearing from all of you is that being yourself and putting yourself first is actually the number one priority you have to put in your business, so to be successful. So yeah, super. So thank you so much to my 3 guests today for sharing their wisdom on this subject. Please check out their amazing offers on their websites. You'll find links below this video. As you just experienced, when we come together in small groups and share our unique perspective, we inspire each other to start living a self-directed and empowered life. My wish is that this discussion has encouraged you to start your own mastermind and to step into your zone of genius. Thank you. Goodbye. Yes.